Sarah thought her husband died in a car crash 3 years ago. But when she saw his face on a church live stream, alive, her world shattered. What happened next forced Dr. Phill to stop the cameras and ask, "What truth are you really hiding, Sarah?" The studio lights glowed soft and golden, the way they always do right before the truth decides to surface. Dr. Phill sat across from Sarah, his eyes sharp but kind, the kind that could see straight through someone try to hold it together. She had that look, shoulders trembling, fingers twisting a tissue she'd already torn in half. Her lips moved, but the words seemed trapped between fear and guilt. When she finally spoke, the air shifted. "My husband, Mark, he's not dead." For a full second, silence drowned the room. You could hear the hum of the cameras. Even Dr. Phil's producers, used to confessions, chaos, and breakdowns, froze in place. Dr. Phill leaned forward, voice steady, gentle. "Sarah, I want to make sure I heard that right. You're saying your husband, the man who's been declared dead for 3 years, is alive?" Her eyes glistened, not with pride, but with shame. "Yes, I saw him." It wasn't the kind of statement that begged for proof. It was the kind that begged for forgiveness. Dr. Phill didn't rush her. He never does. He simply asked, "Then tell us, why do you think he had to disappear?" That's when she broke. Her shoulders caved as if the secret itself had weight. She whispered, "Because I wasn't supposed to find him." And right there, in that one sentence, every assumption flipped. The audience gasped, but not out of judgment, out of disbelief. Dr. Phill slowly removed his glasses, studying her. "Sarah, what do you mean by that?" Her voice cracked. "It means he made me promise." The crew exchanged looks. The control room cut to Dr. Phil's expression, a mix of calm and curiosity. This wasn't the story they expected. This wasn't about grief. This was about something buried beneath it. Sarah continued, her words tumbling out between shallow breaths. "He told me, before the accident, if anything ever happened to him, I should never come looking." Dr. Phill paused, his tone low. "And yet here you are." A faint, broken laugh escaped her. "Because I saw his face on a church live stream, preaching." At that, Dr. Phill leaned back in disbelief. "You're saying the man the police declared dead is standing at a pulpit as a pastor?" Sarah nodded. Under a different name. You could feel the collective shiver across the studio. The audience leaned forward, caught between shock and sympathy. It was one of those moments where truth and denial fought for space in the same breath. Dr. Phill said softly, "When you saw him, what did you feel?" Her eyes wandered, as if searching for words that didn't exist. Relief, anger, guilt, all at once. "Because the night he died, I told him I wished he would just disappear." A hush fell over the room. Dr. Phil's tone turned almost parental. "Sarah, we can't change what we said in anger, but we can change what we do with the truth. So tell me, why are you ready to speak about it now?" Her lips trembled. "Because the truth doesn't go away just because you bury it. It follows you. It finds ways to remind you that you're still living a lie." For a brief moment, she looked directly into the camera, not at Dr. Phill, not at the crowd, but at whoever might be watching, as if she was speaking to someone who'd done the same. And then her voice dropped lower. "But that wasn't the first time I'd seen him." Dr. Phill blinked. "You saw him before the live stream?" Sarah nodded slowly. "Yes. The first time was months after his funeral." The entire room seemed to breathe in unison, like everyone was afraid to miss what came next. Dr. Phil's tone softened, almost whispering. "Sarah, take us back to the night everything changed." She took a deep breath, eyes locked on the floor. It started with a crash. As the studio lights dimmed slightly, the sound team prepared the next playback. A low hum of anticipation rippled through the audience. Dr. Phill folded his hands, saying the words that would lead into the next part of her story, the rewind. "Let's go back to that night," he said quietly, "to the moment the world believed Mark died." And as the screen behind them flickered to life, flames, rain, and sirens filling the set, the truth began to rewind itself. But what no one knew that night was that the crash wasn't the end of their story. It was only the beginning of a secret that would haunt everyone who believed it. How far would you go to protect someone you love, even from the truth itself. Then, it always starts with rain. The kind that blurs headlights into streaks of light and memory. The kind that makes everything feel like a bad dream you can't wake from. That night, Sarah gripped the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles went white. The wipers fought against the storm, but it was useless. She could barely see the road. Mark sat beside her, silent, jaw locked, staring straight ahead. The argument they just had still lingered in the air like smoke. "Just stop the car, Sarah," he said quietly. But she didn't. She was angry, not just angry hurt. She'd found messages, lies, excuses, and for the first time in years, she wasn't the woman holding the marriage together. She was the one tearing it apart. "You said you'd changed, Mark. You swore to me you were done hiding things," she said, voice trembling. He looked at her, then back at the road. "Not everything can be explained, Sarah. You have to trust that." She laughed, but it wasn't the kind of laugh that came from humor. It was sharp, tired, hollow. "Trust? You don't get to ask for that anymore." A horn blared. Tires screeched. Metal twisted. And then, silence. When Sarah opened her eyes, everything was sideways. Smoke filled her lungs. A truck had clipped them and spun the car into a ditch. Across the road, flames erupted from another vehicle, Mark's car. Her car had stopped spinning yards away, but his was upside down, fire crawling across the hood like a living thing. "Mark!" she screamed, stumbling toward it. The rain hissed against the flames, but it couldn't stop them. Police reports later said it was instant, that no one could have survived the explosion. But that night, Sarah swore she heard him call her name before the fire took him. 3 days later, they found fragments, bits of fabric, burn ID cards, enough to close the case. Accidental fatality, they called it. Sarah called it punishment. She replayed the argument over and over, the last word she ever said to him echoing in her mind. "I wish you'd just disappear." Every time she heard it, her stomach twisted, because in some twisted way, she got what she asked for. Weeks passed. The sympathy card stopped. Friends returned to their lives. But Sarah couldn't sleep. Every creak in the house made her flinch. Every sound of rain made her heart race. The world thought she was moving on, attending grief counseling, going back to work, keeping busy. But late at night, she would drive the same road, headlights cutting through the dark, waiting for some sign, some impossible miracle. And then, one morning it arrived. A plain envelope. No sender. No note. Just a single photograph. The picture showed a man standing outside a gas station in another state. Same eyes. Same crooked smile. The timestamp? 2 weeks after the crash. Her hands trembled. She flipped the photo over. On the back, written in pen, were 3 words. "Stop looking, Sarah." Her heart stopped. She ran her fingers over the handwriting, studying every letter, the slant, the curve, the pressure. It was his. It was Mark's. That night, Sarah sat on her porch in the dark, the photo glowing in her lap under the porch light. She whispered to herself, "If he's alive, why warn me?" But deep down, she already knew the answer, because whatever he was running from was still out there. And if she found him, she might not survive it either. Still, she couldn't stop, because love, when mixed with guilt, becomes something dangerous, something that doesn't listen to reason. The camera cuts back to Dr. Phill in the studio. His tone is low, serious. "So, the police never confirmed his body." Sarah shakes her head. "They said it was too damaged. They relied on his belongings. The ring, his wallet, his badge. But those could have been planted." Dr. Phill nods slowly, a knowing look in his eyes. "Sometimes the truth hides in plain sight. And sometimes we convince ourselves it's gone because it's easier than admitting what we already suspect." Sarah wipes her tears, gripping that same old photo, worn at the edges now. "I thought it was closure, but it was a message. And I didn't realize until too late that it was a warning, not a goodbye. But the handwriting on the envelope wasn't just familiar. It was identical to her own. Is forgiveness possible when the past keeps sending reminders that refuse to stay buried? Time didn't heal anything. It only blurred the edges. Months turned into a quiet ache that lived in Sarah's chest. She packed away Mark's things, donated his clothes, tried to silence the voice that said, "You still don't know the whole story." until the letter came. A plain white envelope slid through the mail slot one windy afternoon. No return address, no stamp, no markings. Yet when Sarah picked it up, her stomach dropped. She knew that paper, that smell of cologne faintly clinging to it. She tore it open with shaking hands. Inside, a single sheet, written in the one handwriting she'd memorized through birthday cards and grocery lists. Sarah, if you're reading this, it means I did what I had to do. Please don't come looking. It's bigger than both of us. Her vision blurred. She read it again and again. The pen strokes were jagged, rushed, as if written in fear. But there was no doubt. It was Mark. She called the detective who handled his case. He dismissed her. People fake handwriting all the time, he said. You're grieving. Don't chase ghosts. But she wasn't chasing ghosts. She was chasing proof. That night, she sat on her bedroom floor surrounded by boxes of old photos and receipts, trying to piece together clues. Mark had been working for a financial auditing firm, one that suddenly shut down weeks before his death. Records sealed. Employees vanished into new companies with new names. Something was wrong. She could feel it. Weeks later, she found herself deep inside online forums, communities of people searching for missing loved ones who'd staged disappearances. There were stories of secret programs, whistleblowers, and people hiding from corporations, not criminals. Sarah wasn't sure what to believe. Until one night, scrolling through a live stream on social media, her thumb froze. A man on screen, mid-sermon, speaking with calm conviction inside a small-town church in Texas. The voice, the posture, the faint scar on his jawline, everything matched. Mark, alive, preaching about rebirth, forgiveness, and the power of second chances. Her breath caught. The screen flickered, buffering. And in that pause, her world divided in two before and after that frame. The next morning, she replayed the stream 100 times. She compared photos, matched facial features, even used a facial recognition app. 97% match. She whispered to herself, he's alive. But with every confirmation came another question. Why? Why fake his death? Why hide under a new name, Pastor David Miller? Why preach about forgiveness when he'd left her drowning in guilt? Then she noticed something else. Standing beside him in every photo of the church was a woman. Mid-30s, dark hair, wearing a cross that looked exactly like the one Sarah once gifted him. Her stomach twisted. Could he really have started over? With someone new? Cut to the studio. Dr. Phil's expression is calm, but sharp. So you believe he built a new life under a false identity, and that the letter was his way of warning you off? Sarah nods, wiping tears. He said if I ever found him, it would destroy everything. I thought he meant me. Now I think he meant us, whatever secret he was protecting. Dr. Phill leans forward, voice low. Sometimes people vanish not because they're guilty, but because they're terrified. Do you think Mark was protecting you or running from you? The audience murmurs, a ripple of tension that hangs heavy. Sarah exhales, whispering, maybe both. But curiosity doesn't listen to fear. Within days, she packed her car with old letters, her wedding photo, and the mysterious envelope, determined to find the man she'd buried twice. Before leaving, she tucked a small camera inside her purse. If he's alive, she said quietly, I need him to look me in the eyes and say it. The rain began again as she pulled out of her driveway, the same kind of rain that started it all. Only this time, she wasn't driving away from fight. She was driving toward the truth. But when she finally stepped inside that Texas church, what she saw on his face wasn't surprise. It was fear. What would you do if the person who hurt you was also the one trying to save you? The Texas sun burned low against the horizon when Sarah finally pulled into the dirt lot beside the church. The sign out front read, New Hope Baptist, Pastor David Miller. Her hands trembled as she shut off the engine. For a moment, she just sat there, staring through the windshield. She'd imagined this reunion 1,000 times. Tears, apologies, maybe even forgiveness. But as the church doors opened and the hum of singing spilled out, something inside her warned, this won't go the way you think. Inside, the small chapel glowed in warm light. Dozens of people swayed gently, hands raised, lost in worship. And there he was, Mark, or rather, Pastor David. He stood at the pulpit, wearing a plain black shirt, his once dark hair now streaked with gray. His voice was calm, steady, the same voice that used to whisper her name late at night. She froze in the doorway. For a heartbeat, he didn't notice her. Then, mid-sentence, his eyes found hers across the room. He stopped speaking. The microphone squealed from sudden silence. Heads turned. A ripple of confusion moved through the congregation as his face went pale. But then, almost instantly, he composed himself, forcing a faint smile. "Let us bow our heads," he said softly. "Let's close with prayer." The moment the crowd dispersed, he disappeared behind a side door. Sarah followed. Her pulse hammered in her throat. She found him in a small office at the back of the church. He was sitting at his desk, head in his hands. When he looked up, she saw tears. Not guilt, something deeper. "Sarah," he breathed, "you shouldn't be here." She took a step closer. "So it's true. You're alive." He nodded slowly. "I didn't want you to find out like this." Her voice cracked. "Like this? Mark, I buried you. I mourned you. You let me stand over an empty grave and lie to everyone I loved." He flinched at her tone. "I know, but I had no choice." "No choice," she shot back. "You chose this. You chose to disappear, to fake your death, to send me letters instead of the truth." He stood up, trembling. "Sarah, please. If I told you everything, you'd be in danger." That night, the crash, it wasn't an accident. The words hit like thunder. "What do you mean?" she whispered. He swallowed hard. "The company I worked for, the one that shut down after the crash, was laundering money through charities. When I found out, I reported it. They came after me. The crash was staged. I had to disappear before they came for you two." Her knees went weak. She gripped the chair beside her. "So all of it was to protect me?" "Yes," he said, "but it wasn't just that." He looked away, voice shaking. "I made mistakes before all this. I wasn't faithful. And when I realized what was coming, I thought, maybe if I died, you'd be safer. You'd move on. You'd forget the worst of me." Tears rolled down Sarah's cheeks. "I didn't forget. I punished myself every day." He moved closer, reaching out, but she stepped back. "Don't," she whispered. "You don't get to comfort me now." He nodded, shame shadowing his face. "I know. I don't deserve that." A beat of silence filled the room. Two people staring at what used to be love, now buried beneath guilt and truth. Finally, Sarah broke it. "You could have told me. You could have trusted me." He sighed. "If I had, you'd be dead too." Cut to the studio. Dr. Phil's eyes narrow, reflecting the same disbelief as the viewers. "So, let me get this straight," he says. "Your husband faked his death to protect you from people who were willing to kill him?" Sarah nods. "Yes. And even when I found him, he begged me to leave. He said they were still watching." Dr. Phill leans forward. "And did you?" She looks down, hands twisting the hem of her sleeve. "No, I stayed." The audience murmurs. "Why?" Dr. Phill asks quietly. Sarah lifts her head, eyes glassy. "Because after everything, I still loved him, even if it destroyed me." The camera zooms in, soft focus. Her voice lowers. "He told me he had a reason for everything, except one thing." Dr. Phill tilts his head. "What's that?" She exhales. The other woman. The one standing beside him in all those church photos. The room goes silent. Sarah's voice shakes. "He said she was his assistant, that she helped him build a new identity. But I knew that look in his eyes when he spoke her name." Dr. Phill doesn't interrupt. He lets the silence work. She continues quieter. "He wanted to protect me from the truth. But in the end, the truth was the only thing that could have saved us." The footage from the church fades to black as Sarah's narration softens. "I didn't just find a man who'd faked his death. I found a man still running from himself." But just when Sarah thought the nightmare was finally over, life forced her to mourn him again. When truth and safety collide, which one do you choose? The week after Texas felt like living inside someone else's dream. Sarah flew home alone. Her phone buzzed every few hours, anonymous numbers, missed calls, silence on the other end. She told herself it was paranoia. But deep down, she knew someone was watching. Then, 7 days later, the call came. A local sheriff's voice, flat and professional. "Ma'am, we found a body." For a moment, she couldn't breathe. Not again. But when they confirmed the fingerprints, the name, the face, she knew it was real this time. Mark, or Pastor David Miller, was dead. The news broke her twice over. Once for the man she lost years ago, and once for the stranger he became trying to protect her. At the studio, the air is heavy. Dr. Phill looks at her gently. "Sarah, what went through your mind when you heard he was gone again?" She swallows hard. Relief. Guilt. Mostly confusion. Because I just seen him alive, begging me not to tell anyone. And now he was gone. Like he'd erased himself for good this time. She explains that investigators found a note tucked inside his Bible. It wasn't long, just 2 pages, but it changed everything. The letter began simply, "Sarah, if you're reading this, I'm sorry. I couldn't let them reach you. What I did was wrong, but it was the only way to make it right." He detailed the corruption inside his old company. Funds funneled through charities, accounts and false names, threats sent to anyone who questioned it. He'd become the whistleblower they couldn't afford to expose. His fake death bought him 3 years of borrowed peace. But the final lines, those were different. Personal. They weren't addressed to Sarah at all. "To my son, if you ever learn who you really are, forgive me. I never wanted to hide from you." Sarah froze the first time she read it. Her hands went cold. "Son," she whispered, "we never had children." Dr. Phil's brow furrows. "So who was he talking to?" Sarah shakes her head. "I didn't know until I saw the woman from the church again." 2 weeks later, she received another envelope, this one from the local police. Inside were personal effects from Mark's office. Among them, a framed photo of him standing with that same woman and a small boy about 5 years old. The caption on the back read, "Family in Faith, Pastor David Miller, 2023. Her knees gave out. She realized the truth. While living as David, he'd started a new life and had a child. She wasn't just mourning a husband anymore. She was mourning the illusion that he'd died for her instead of away from her. Dode Phill Stonesoffens. Sarah, that's a brutal truth to face. Did it change how you saw him?" She nods slowly. "It did. For years I thought I was the reason he vanished, that I was the one he was protecting. But it turns out he was protecting a family I didn't even know existed." A pause. The audience barely breathes. Then Dr. Phill says quietly, "Sometimes the hardest truth isn't that someone lied to us, it's that they moved on." Sarah exhales, tears slipping down her face. "I went to his funeral," she says. "There were 2 rows of mourners, one for the man I knew, and one for the life he built without me. 2 lives, 1 coffin. The image lingers, Sarah standing under gray skies, watching both sides of his world collide into one burial. The woman from the church nodding at her through tears. The boy holding his mother's hand. And for the first time, Sarah didn't feel anger. She felt release. Because truth, however cruel, was finally complete. Dr. Phill leans back, his voice steady. Sometimes closure doesn't mean forgiveness. It means letting go of the version of someone we've been holding on to. Sarah nods. I stopped asking why. I stopped digging. I just lived. A long silence fills the room. Not the kind that begs for words, but the kind that finally feels like peace. But what she did next would turn her pain into purpose and redefine what it meant to love after lies. Can love survive when the truth kills the illusion that held it together? The rain had stopped by the time Sarah left the second funeral. 2 graves now stood side by side. One marked Mark Anderson, the other David Miller. Different names. Same man. Same ending. She stood there for a long time, holding a single white lily. Around her, the cemetery was quiet, but her mind was loud. Echoes of everything unsaid, every truth half told. She whispered, "You got your piece. I'll find mine." And for the first time in years, she meant it. Cut to the studio. Dr. Phill leans forward, voice soft but firm. "Sarah, when you left that funeral, what did you decide to do next?" Her expression changes. Not sorrow, but strength. "I decided his story wouldn't end with a lie." She goes on to explain how she started a small online support group for families who've lost someone under unexplained circumstances. Disappearances, fake deaths, secret identities, anything that left them without closure. Within months, The group grew into a national nonprofit, the Legacy Foundation for the Lost. The mission was simple: to help people live after the truth, not before it. Sarah became the voice for those caught between grief and uncertainty. She appeared on podcasts, documentaries, even spoke to lawmakers about updating missing person protocols. Each time she told her story, her voice grew steadier. And yet, she never framed Mark as a villain. People asked if I hate him, she tells Dr. Phill, eyes glistening. But the truth is, I don't. Because even when he lied, he thought he was saving me. The tragedy is, he never learned that the truth would have saved us both. The studio audience listens in complete silence. Dr. Phill nods. You know, Sarah, sometimes people think hiding the truth protects others from pain. But pain isn't the enemy. Secrets are. They eat away at trust until there's nothing left to protect. Sarah smiles faintly. That's exactly why I do what I do now. I tell people, don't build a life around silence. It always cracks. A montage rolls, news clips, interviews, families embracing after years apart. Her foundation logo fades in. Then, one image stays, Sarah standing beside the two graves, placing the white lily between them. Voiceover, her narration. He taught me that truth isn't the opposite of love. It's part of it. You can't have one without the other. I used to think forgiveness meant forgetting. Now I know it means remembering without bitterness. Back in the studio, Dr. Phill takes a deep breath. Sarah, I think what you've done is what we all hope to do. Take the wreckage of what broke us and turn it into something that helps others heal. She nods, eyes wet but peaceful. I didn't get the ending I wanted, but I got the one I needed. Dr. Phill turns to the camera, voice heavy with reflection. We all carry versions of people we once loved. The husband we buried, the friend we lost, the truth we weren't ready to hear. But healing starts the moment we stop asking why and start asking, how do I move forward? The shot lingers on Sarah, framed between the studio lights and a faint reflection of herself on the monitor. The woman who once whispered, he's still out there, now stands grounded in truth. She says softly, two graves, one man, one truth. But this time, I'm not afraid to live. And as the lights fade, Dr. Phil's voice closes the segment. Some secrets are meant to protect. Others are meant to be told. The difference between them, that's where healing begins. What does it take to forgive someone who lied? Not to hurt you, but to save you. If this story moved you, share it with someone who still carries a secret too heavy to hold alone. Because truth might hurt for a moment, but silence lasts forever. Don't forget to subscribe. More real stories of truth, family, and forgiveness are on the way. Stay strong. Stay honest. Stay human.